All right, perfect. So as I said, this is the last info session, and we're so excited to have our M&As and some city staff with us answering some questions. And I am Sharon Logan. I am the neighborhood training director at the Indianapolis Neighborhood Resource Center. So a couple of things. I will keep an eye on the waiting room as well as our chat and try to help with questions. But please remember, at the end of tonight, we will have around 30 minutes for questions. So we're going to have lots of time. So I wanted to let you all know that, but if you do happen to get kicked out, please don't worry. I'll be there to let you back in. So just come on back into the room if you do. So today's format, we're going to start with introductions. So city staff that are on the call, our experts tonight are going to introduce themselves. We're going to start off after introductions with the M&A role and responsibilities. We recognize that is something that's really important. Is kind of understanding who are the M&As, what are their roles and their responsibilities, how do you figure out who your M&A is, all of that fun stuff. And then we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about the registered neighborhood org database. As you all know, this is a database that we're always encouraging neighbors to take advantage of, register. But we want you to understand why and what the database is for and how to best utilize being a registered database or org in the database. Then after that, we're going to switch to Mayor's Action Center and Request Indy, as that is a great tool to use. And we want to make sure you know how to use it and when to use it, when's the right time to use it. And then we want to talk more about the Indy Rent Funds as well. So understanding expectations and an update on the program. And so we're going to do that. And then last but not least, there's a few other tools that the city offer, and we want to make sure to share that as well. So we'll wrap that up for our information portion, and then we will finish with questions. So I will mute myself and hand it over. I'm not sure, Joel, if you want to kick it off with introductions,
Sure.
And we'll manage the chat.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much for the introduction, Sharon. Thank you for inviting myself and a few of the city staff and M&As to be here. So my name is Joel Smith. I'm the Director of Community Outreach. I've been with the city for 5.5 years now and worked with INRC on plenty of initiatives. It's always wonderful to work with them, and I'm excited to be here with you today. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Morgan. I am a Mayor's Neighborhood Advocate for Area 3, which is Franklin and Perry Township. I previously worked for the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services before accepting this position.
Prioritize in-person meetings.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brittany Crone. I am the M&A for Area 10, which is center, downtown, near West and West Indy neighborhoods. I've been with the department for about 6 months now. And prior to that, I was a community health worker in the near West neighborhoods. It's really great to see so many wonderful neighbors on the call tonight.
Hi, I'm Rosie Stockdale. I am the advocate for Area 4. That is primarily the southern half of Wayne Township and all of Decatur. If you square it off, it's everything south of 10th Street and west of Holt Road.
And my name's Erica Hinshaw. I am not an M&A. I am a planner with the Department of Metropolitan Development in the current planning division.
Say they have to be seen. Does that mean they're going to be able to screen, or does someone?
All right, and I would love to take a moment and kick us off by doing some walkthrough of the Mayor's Neighborhood Advocate's roles and responsibilities. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get going. All right, can everybody see that? Awesome. And feel free to drop questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A time at the end of this entire presentation, with the exception of Erica, who will be following this review of roles and responsibilities. So a little bit about who we are. Many of you on this call may know already what your neighborhood advocate does, but I find it's always helpful to just review in general what our role is. So the MNAs are a team of liaisons, or as I like to refer to us as connectors, based out of the mayor's office, who essentially are dedicated to communicating with and advocating for our residents, our neighborhood groups, local businesses, and other groups of people who live in our assigned areas of Marion County. So we are full-time city employees. However, we work outside traditional office hours to be available for the groups that we serve within our respective areas. And as you can see on this slide, there's a map there of the different MNA areas. For example, my MNA area is the Brown area 10. And then you can see, you know, Caitlin introduced herself as well as Rosie, and their areas are listed here in those different colors. We do have this map available. If anyone ever wants to reach out and ask for your map or ask for who your MNA is, we will get to how to reach out to your MNA to get this kind of information. So what do we do? Well, work as an MNA is a two-way street. We are focused on resolving issues and acting as a bridge to manage relationships with the neighborhood stakeholders, residents, and leaders. Our primary focus is on the transparency and understanding. So we provide residents a communications link to the mayor's office and city county agencies, but we also are focused on connecting residents, community organizations, and businesses directly to our city government, with a lot in between. So here's a very high level overview of some of our daily responsibilities. I will not read through each of these, but it's really exciting, you know, just sharing from personal experience, because no day looks the same as an MNA. We are attending a multitude of neighborhood meetings, and we're providing information and education about a variety of questions that we are asked, and on different public announcements that we're asked to share as well. So if you are looking for neighborhood news, or if you have questions about municipal services or opportunities, if you have a request for municipal government agencies, or even just to maintain a regular public meeting time. So if you have, if you are interested about information regarding public hearings, or if you want an MNA to attend your neighborhood meeting, you can call or email us for any of these topics. And like I said, kind of anything in between. Most of us are very comfortable with answering questions and maybe not even answering them right away, but instead going and finding answers or connecting our residents that we serve with the appropriate parties. So how to find your MNA? There are three main options that I'll be covering. The first here mentioned is by visiting our indy.gov website. We do have a somewhat robust website and a search bar on the website. So this is the first example and option that I wanted to share with you all today. It would be visiting the indy.gov website, and then just typing in the search bar, as you can see the first image on the left, typing in Mayor's Neighborhood Advocate. And when you hit search and you enter that information, it will give an option of find your Mayor's Neighborhood Advocate. And I apologize that some of the words are a little separated in a weird way here, but you can click on that and then enter your address or the address of the area you're looking for your MNA, and then click search. And as soon as you click search, it will auto-populate who your neighborhood advocate is. So I did the CCD as an example, 200 West Washington Street, right downtown Indianapolis, and hit search, and the neighborhood advocate who popped up was me, since I'm the MNA for downtown. And I can walk us through an example of that, but these images show very simple steps to get that. So that's one option. Another option would be to use the My Neighborhood site, which is kind of my personal favorite, and hopefully you'll see why here in just a moment. So the My Neighborhood is a feature on the Indy.gov website as a whole. It's actually part of the Maps GIS cards. So by visiting the maps.indy.gov/My Neighborhood link, it will take you to the landing page, and I have an image of that you see on your screen now. And what we do here is begin entering our address. So any address that you're looking for, you type that in, and it will begin to auto-populate, as you can see in the second image on the lower portion of the screen. And you'll click that and then click Go. And once you hit go, you are going to see a lot of different results. First, you'll see a map on the left side of the screen that shows you exactly, pinpointed exactly where the address is that you searched. And then on the right-hand side of the screen under results, you'll see an entire category list of neighborhood search results. And if you go down to the local government services tab of that list and then click on neighborhood advocates, it will show you exactly who the neighborhood advocate is for the address that you searched. And I'm going to walk us through doing this again as an example. Can everyone still see my screen?
I know.
Okay, so this little information will always pop up anytime that you use this site as a reminder of how to use the site. So we just hit close on that, and then it shows the entire map of Indianapolis. So again, I'll go ahead and type in the address for the city county building. Yes.
We're still seeing your PowerPoint. We're not seeing your map.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for letting me know, Erica. Here. How's that? Awesome. Thank you so much. So here we are on the My Neighborhood site, and you click in the address bar and start typing. And again, if you put in your full address like a copy paste, it doesn't quite work. What the system wants us to do is start typing an address, and then it will start populating for us. And it should. There it goes. So then I'm going to click in the right-hand corner here, and it pops up. It has a pin right there. And if I need to zoom in on this area, I can simply click and drag on the map. And on the right-hand side, so you can also select the map and zoom in to downtown. And if you need to go back to the address, you just hit go, and it'll show that little pin there. So on the right-hand side, again, we have this drop-down list, a plethora of information here, folks. And again, this is why I typically refer this site to all the neighborhood groups that I work with, simply because it's not just information on how to find out the MNA, but it's also a list of all the childcare listed in the area of this neighborhood, cultural amenities, education, general neighborhoods, healthcare. As you can see, the list goes on and on. But if I'm looking specifically for my MNA, I click on the plus sign there for local government services, and then drop down to neighborhood advocates. And there the information populates. And if I need to get the contact information, I can click this link there under related information, and it takes me to the page. So that's how that site works. Again, it's an excellent site for locating all kinds of different information, including, contacting the neighborhood groups in your area. Folks who move to a new neighborhood, a lot of times may not know exactly who their neighborhood group president is, or the neighborhood association, the HOA, or if there are other different organizations listed in their area. And Erica will actually be getting into a little bit more about that. So I do love that option as using the My Neighborhood site. But as a final and maybe even the simplest way that many of you are already familiar with is option 3, which is simply contacting the Mayor's Action Center. And our call center representatives can answer your call, and they can find out for you using those same tools that we just walked through. They can find out who your MNA is. So the number is listed here on the screen. And then there's also a site link here that would take you to the Mayor's Action Center webpage. And that is all I have. So again, if there are questions, we would love to hear those questions. We would love to hear them in the chat first, and then maybe circle back to those in the end, if that's all right with Ms. Logan.
Yep, that'd be perfect.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. I'm up next. If anyone joined late, my name is Erica Hinshaw. I'm a principal planner with the Department of Metropolitan Development, current planning division. And I am also going to try to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going over our registered neighborhood organization database, which is an online tool that neighborhoods can use, neighborhood organizations can use to sign up with the city, to receive certain information, and to let the community know where they are, who their officers are, and how to get a hold of them. So there's a couple of reasons why an organization might want to register with us. The main reason that we even started this database was to distribute information about land use activities in the city. So if somebody comes into our planning offices and wants to do a zoning change or file for a variance or plat a new subdivision, they have to file a petition with our office. And then as a requirement, they have to notify property owners around that address and also any neighborhood organization that serves that area. And so how they find it is through our neighborhood organization database. And we have a back end tool that we use to provide that information. And it's the information that neighborhoods provide us through this tool that I'm going to show you here in a minute. Another good reason to register is you are then eligible to file for what's called an automatic continuance. And that is if a, let's say a zoning case is coming up for a hearing and the neighborhood organization wants to discuss more about it with the petitioner and provide input to the petitioner, maybe they have concerns, you can request it to be postponed to a future hearing date. That gives you more time to meet with the petitioner. And also it allows organizations to connect with other organizations in the city and also neighbors to connect with you. So if somebody, kind of like the My Neighborhood tool that Brittany showed us, somebody who's new to the city or new to the neighborhood can use our tool to find what organizations are working in their neighborhood. And it is also available on indy.gov, kind of the same way. I don't have the same steps, but you can search for it. It's on maps.indy.gov. And let me go through the tips and then I'll demonstrate how to register. So what the main thing is, your organization name is your unique attribute. So once you sign up with a name, you can't change your name. So if your organization goes through a restructuring and you have a new name, you have to completely re-sign up, or just use your old name. If you have complicated boundaries, since this is map-based, you can enter in your boundaries, north, south, east, and west. If they're more complicated, you can just email me. My contact information is there, erica.hinshaw@indy.gov, and you can send me a more detailed explanation, or you can send me a map, which is always easiest. And if your organization ceases to function, or it merges, or it changes its name, and you need to remove it from the registry, you can also email me, or you can call the planning offices. I did not provide that phone number, but I will put it in the chat. So let me close out of that, and I will show you how it works. Can you all see the map? Okay, thank you, Sharon. So when you first sign on, there's a little welcome. You click OK to clear it. And then this is what you see when you first log on. There are tools on the left-hand side, and I'll go over those in a second. And then here, up here at the right, top right, you see a little bar. It says registrations and downloads. That is where you can put in a new organization and also update your information. And so you just click on that and you get this little drop down menu. If you have a new organization, you'll click new. You'll get this online form you fill out, super easy. You type in your organization name, this type. It gives you some options. I think most people on here would probably be representing neighborhood organizations, but we also have HOAs or business associations. Public and quasi-public organizations, we have like school districts that are registered in here. It's not just neighborhood groups. So if you are involved in something like that, you could register here. So then you just fill out this form with all your information. The stars are required. Some organizations give an actual contact person, like their president or their secretary. Some just do they just have like president with kind of a generic name. That way they don't have to come in and update it every time there's an organizational change. And then whoever fills it out, fills out this little box so that I can contact you if I have any questions. And then once you hit submit, I get this, I have kind of a back end portal where I'll get this information and I can approve it and ask for questions if I have any questions. Oh, here also you check what township you serve. And if you're a county-wide organization, for your boundaries, you can just put in county-wide and I'll know what that means. And then once you're done, you hit submit. And then if you already are registered and you need to update your information, let's say you get a new president or you get a new PO box or something, you come here and you choose update. And then you start filling in your organization name and it'll populate. So I'm just going to do Crown Hill. You click on that and then all the information we already have for you pops up. And then you just change what you need to change. So if Danita has decided to retire and somebody else is taking over for her as president, then they would put their information in here. And then hit submit and it's the same thing. I get notification and I will update it. It's really important that you put in good boundaries because our system is all map based. So if a case is happening, an address that falls within your neighborhood, then you'll get notification for it. But if it's like across the street from your neighborhood, it's not within your boundaries, you won't necessarily hear about it. But our department puts out the big orange signs that you'll see sometimes. So that's another way to find out about what's going on. And then if you ever want to search for an organization, you can do it over here on the left-hand panel. So let's say you newly moved to Martindale Brightwood, you can just type in Martindale and then click on search. And you get all the organizations that are in Martindale Brightwood. You can click on them and see their boundaries. You can click on details and you can see their contact information, how to get a hold of them. And that's also a way you can check your own. If you want to see if your neighborhood's already registered, you can type in your neighborhood organization name over there and search. And then you can also search by township. So if you want to see all the neighborhood organizations, let's say in Franklin Township, you just check Franklin. And then you get the list of everything that serves Franklin Township, including countywide organizations. Or you can search by address. So if you move to a new neighborhood and you want to see, I already typed in the city county building. You want to see what neighborhood organizations serve you in your new address. You can search for it and see everything that covers your area. And you can also view all. And you can click search and you can see every single organization that's registered within Marion County, and you can download the results if you want. Right now we have 923 organizations that are registered. And if you download the results, you can get a spreadsheet. Like sometimes people want to do mailings to neighborhood organizations, and that's one way to do it. And then every 2 or 3 years, we send out postcards to all the neighborhood organizations that we have registered. If you're already registered, you may have received a postcard, just inviting people to check their information to make sure it's still current and up to date. So that's all I have. I have to leave. I have something else going on this evening. So if anyone has any questions about this right now, I'd be happy to answer them before I leave. Okay, if not, then I'll turn it over to Joel.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Erica.
You're welcome.
All right. Hope everyone can see my screen okay. One second here. All right, well, good evening. Thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday night to join us. I also want to thank INRC again for inviting the M&A and my team to speak in this spring info session series. As was previously mentioned, my name is Joel Smith. I serve as the Director of Community Outreach for the City of Indianapolis. Parts of my duties include overseeing the Mayor's Neighborhood Advocate program, which Brittany covered a few minutes ago. And I also oversee Mayor's Action Center operations, for which I'll be providing an overview of during this portion of the info session. So to start, the Mayor's Action Center exists to provide a single point of connection for residents to request city services, provide feedback to the city on programs or services, and to work on behalf of residents to improve service delivery for the various departments we're partnered with. I don't know that many people know this, but the MAC actually has existed since 1992. And that means that this is the program's 30th anniversary this year, which is pretty exciting. We have a couple updates I'll go over towards the end of the program that I hope you're as excited about as I am. Throughout that time, there's been a few different case management systems used by the city and MAC staff, but I do think it's fun to just say that in the first year of the program, the center actually took in 185 requests, and all of those were processed via handwritten work orders and interdepartmental mail. When you fast forward today, obviously MAC processes have changed a lot. We now process on average about 500 service requests a day. Those are processed in real time with departments using Salesforce, which is our current case management system. So during the next few slides, we'll dig into kind of what that process looks like, when it's appropriate to use the Mayor's Action Center call center versus Request Indy, and then go over a couple other services that the Mayor's Action Center provides. So to start, the Mayor's Action Center isn't just a call center for city services. We actually manage and offer a host of call lines and platforms that residents can use daily. We have the MAC call center, which most are familiar with. That's the 327-4622 number. Even with new technology coming in and Request Indy, this is our most used option. Similar in nature to the MAC is the Request Indy online portal and the Request Indy phone applications that we offer. I will walk you through briefly how to use this portal in a future portion of the presentation. We operate the city county switchboard, which is the 327-3200 phone number. A lot of people find this number when they search Google or are searching online just for the city county building in general to reach out and find what they need. But we manage that entire switchboard. The newest program that we manage is actually the Tenant Assistance Referral Line at 327-2228 in partnership with our Office of Public Health and Safety. And then lastly, we partner with our Information Services Agency to update and manage the Indy Open Data Portal. And I'll give a brief overview of this tool as well towards the end of the presentation. So the MAC hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. We do have after hours options should you need to work with somebody. Basically, you have a couple different options for after hours. We would suggest you use Request Indy online or one of the application services to make a request at that time. But if you need a live operator for a city service emergency, such as like a traffic sign being knocked down or a traffic signal that is flashing or out or damaged, we have a live operator after hours. You can either call IMPD non-emergency to report that, and they'll work with our Department of Public Works directly, or you can go to the Mayor's Action Center mainline number at 4622, and you'll hear call tree options that will prompt you to get to the correct department for that kind of after hours service that's needed. Most of those will go to DPW, our Department of Public Works dispatch line. That is for the purposes of handling kind of those safety related issues that are infrastructure needs. But like I said, you can also report some other call tree options. There's an animal option as well for our animal care services department if there's an animal in danger. I like to just cover a brief overview of our staffing and volume we get, just to paint a picture for folks when I describe the MAC call center. So when fully staffed, the MAC has 12 customer service representatives handling calls. There's an additional 2 MAC management members who a resident may be transferred to if there's a need for an issue to be escalated, or if the issue is too complex for the customer service agent and they just don't know how to necessarily approach that call, they may transfer you to that supervisor. There is not, I'll be upfront, there's not always a supervisor immediately available to take a transferred call. This is because they also manage a lot of other aspects on their jobs, but typically they call back the same day if information is left on their voicemail, or if they've received an escalation from one of the customer service agents. So I apologize if we're not able to get with you immediately, but they will give you a call back to see what they can do and see how they can help escalate that issue on your behalf in order to find a resolution. The call center receives anywhere from 600 to 1,000 calls daily. Over the last few years, we usually receive about an average of 161,000 calls per year from residents of Marion County. And our average speed to answer for the last few years has hovered around 1 to 2 minutes. Though admittedly, I would say over the last 6 to 8 months, it's been much more challenging, and many have faced longer wait times than this. So we do apologize. Many city departments, including the MAC, and especially the call center industry, have felt hiring challenges and impacts at this time, making it difficult to attract and retain employees. The call center industry has been competitive with increased need during the pandemic for healthcare surveys and for procedure scheduling that had maybe been pushed back during the pandemic. That said, we've made a lot of changes, and actually I'm excited to say we should be back to being fully staffed in the very near future. And that will improve our service greatly and should cut down on any wait times you've experienced in the near future. There are a few reasons you should work through the call center. We have a few different case options. There's information cases we take, service requests, and complaints and compliments that we handle. If you aren't sure how to get in touch with a county agency, or if you're trying to gather information related to policies or resources the city's providing, you should call us. If you wish to provide feedback about a service or policy, this could come in the form of a formalized complaint or a compliment about that policy, or about crews or the departments in general. We do handle kind of those compliments and formalized complaints that way in the call center. You can also call back the call center if you've worked with us, or if you've put in a case on Request Indy, to receive an update on cases you've previously submitted, or to provide us with an update of the status of that request. If you think the issue has changed, right? You may have called in a tree that needed service in the right of way. At the time the inspector went out, they inventoried it and said it wasn't meeting a standard to get it down immediately, but then a windstorm or something happens, the status of that tree changes. We want to make sure if you call back in or you reach back out to us, we can get that escalated and handled as immediately as we can, just to make sure that that gets done. I'll show you how to check on the status of those kinds of cases in Request Indy, so you can see where you can enter that in and check the status. You should also feel free to call in and report the need for any city service to be completed. The call center handles over 150 different types of service requests, and those directly filter to the corresponding city subdepartments. Moving on from the call center, we offer our Request Indy applications, as well as our online tools. They're Android and iOS friendly. This allows you to report the need for city services while avoiding the wait at the call center, and for after-hours service. I will say you can only request about 80% of the service options through Request Indy that you can do via the call center. mainly just due to platform capabilities when we launched Request Indy, but we're working on improving that in the near future to be more of a one-to-one experience if you were to call in or use Request Indy, which is exciting. In Request Indy, you can check on the status of a request if you have a case number available from your previous request. So I always say it's important to save record of those numbers. If you call in the Mayor's Action Center, the agent should provide you with a case number. If they don't provide you with a case number, please feel free to call back in. You can email your MNA, you can work with us, and we'll make sure to get that issue corrected. But the case numbers are very important, and we want to make sure you can keep record of those for future use. I would say that Request Indy differs most from the call center because the focus is entirely on city service requests, whereas the call center has a heavy focus on information and resource provision along with kind of formalized compliments or complaints that I mentioned before. They just vary based on the nature of kind of what you can get accomplished via Request Indy or via calling into the Mayor's Action Center. And so I like to make that just kind of side-by-side comparison there and make sure you know the call center is more apt. You know, you can do city services, but also we want to help you with any of those information requests. Request Indy is geared towards inputting and getting those requests submitted directly to the departments for service. To give you a quick breakdown of kind of what those city services look like and where we fall with requests, the Department of Public Works is about 60% of the requests in any given year that we receive through Request Indy in the call center. Our Business and Neighborhood Services Department, formerly Code Enforcement, is about 38% of those requests. And then Parks and Recreation is 2% of those requests for city service. And so I know that that was a lot of talking. I like to give the background on some of this. I promise we're going to get into what the Request Indy platform actually looks like, and I'll do a brief demo. But the last question I kind of just want to answer that I get frequently is, how does it all work? That is one common question that I know a lot of MNAs get, and it's what the MAC gets pretty frequently. And residents want to know, how do they know that the MAC request is getting to the right place, the right department to service that need? I'll say, sometimes it doesn't if there's some kind of misconception or if the right type of request was not available. But for the most part, as long as you have that request in place and know what service you need done and it's an option available, it should get to the appropriate department 100% of the time. And so this flow chart I've displayed just as a brief explanation of how that works. So like I said, there's 150 about request options that you or a MAC customer service representative can make. For every one of those options, there's a corresponding code that's matched up with the appropriate sub-department who handles that issue within the city. And so when a MAC agent or a resident enters through Request Indy or through our console at work in the call center, it's going to go through, you follow the arrow to that middle rectangle. It's going to go into an integration table, basically, that filters all of these requests via the code that's assigned to them. And then it's going to shoot them out to the correct department that handles those issues. Once a department receives those, they prioritize them and queue them up for inspection. The MAC doesn't decide what that priority queue looks like. The departments make those decisions once the cases come into them. And once they've inspected or moved the request through the process after they resolve the request, or if the information is sent back through so that they can update the statuses and tell us kind of what's been going on with that case, it follows the red arrow back through the integration table, back through the call center console that we can see, or back into Request Indy so the resident can use their case number to look that case up. So that's kind of what that flow looks like. It is automated and it does happen in real time. When you're entering those requests, it, unless there's an issue with our system, should immediately be shot directly to the appropriate department who can service that request. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to stop sharing and I will share my Request Indy screen to do that demo. Give me 1 second here. All right. Everyone should be able to see Request Indy. And so this is the main screen. We're going to go ahead and go to create a new request so I can show you that example. There is a most common list among other options that are available. This is normally a topic of discussion and a request type used frequently. So I'll go ahead and use pothole as my example. And so you'll select the pothole option. It'll give you a subcategory. In this case will be street pothole. From there, you can either geolocate by touching the map, which Brittany showed you for the other applications that we have available for residents, or you can actually use an address and enter it in. I'm going to go ahead and enter an address that I know that there's a chuck hole at. And so while this validates, it may take a couple minutes here. It should pop you into this enter details page. I know based on what information I was provided earlier that this has not caused any damage. And the incident when they noticed the chuck hole form was today. So I'll select that it occurred today. There's no additional comments needed for this request. You can go ahead and hit continue. You can request to be anonymous, or you can put your information in here. If you do request to be anonymous, it is important if you want to receive an email with that case number for your case that you do enter your email address in. You can have the option to bypass that, but like I said, it's good to have that for your record. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and just select yes to bypass that email address. From there, you can review what you've answered. Questionnaire details here. And then you can actually go ahead and hit submit. And from there, your request was submitted. So based on that flow table, this will go from Request Indy through that integration table and then directly to DPW for service. Once they go ahead and queue that up and complete that service, details will be provided back through the integration table and then back to the Mayor's Action Center staff or the Request Indy user. A couple things to keep in mind when you're using Request Indy is that you may get a pop-up for excluded cities. If you live in the city of Lawrence and you want to report a chuck hole, our DPW does not handle those requests. And so you may receive an excluded city pop-up. So this is something important to keep in mind. We do handle business and neighborhood services issues. Mostly zoning is county-wide, and so we can do those in excluded cities, but a lot of the street maintenance and infrastructure maintenance is not. And so you'll need to work through the City of Lawrence Street Department to handle that. The other thing to keep in mind is there may be a duplicate request screen that pops up. And I'll go ahead and show you what that would look like. This happens when there's already a request made for that certain service at a particular address, because the department doesn't need 100 of that same request. They see the one and they're going to go out and they're going to prioritize that. If you get a screen like this and you know that there's an additional need, or you know that somebody needs to get out there immediately and it won't let you enter it in, I would encourage you to work either through your M&A or work with the Mayor's Action Center. We can go ahead and escalate that and work with the department to try and get that resolved. So moving on, I just want to show really quick what checking the status looks like. So when you get to this main page, if you have a case number, you can go to check status, select that. I have an existing case number that I'll use for an example. So high weeds and grass is very common. You're going to go ahead and enter that with search. It'll bring you the status, which just shows kind of a basic close, the date it was open, the date it was closed. To see all the details, you can go to the details page. It's going to go from bottom to top based on when it was created. So date created was 7/1. It received in the BNS system a case number. Caitlin will actually show you at the end of our session how to look up case numbers to get further details. But then you can see that there was an open comment, You can see an inspection was scheduled on 7/1. And then from here, you can see additional inspection as well as comments from the inspector. There was high weeds and grass in the front and rear of the property. The inspector signed their initials to that. From there, a violation was opened. And so they finished out this and closed the case in our system. Once that violation's opened in the Citizens Access Portal, which Caitlin will show you, you can actually review the status of the violation itself for that property and move on from there. But this is where you can find a lot of these details that are in here and inspector notes that are left. So I'm going to stop sharing really quick. And I am going to move back into the presentation. You should be able to see my screen now. All right, so quickly to move through the remainder here. We also operate that city county switchboard, like I mentioned. We handle about 15 to 20% of our calls through that switchboard. Like I said, if you aren't sure who to get in touch with a county agency, or if a resident calls in looking for a resource, we'll do our best to get them in touch with that provider. If we're not aware of a social service that can handle it, we'll probably refer you to 211, who is there to help with social services. That said, we have over 500 partner numbers that we can connect people to, most commonly working with 211, Indigo, the IMPD lines, and the clerk's offices. Those are usually the numbers folks are looking to get in touch with. So we can handle that. And resource provision is a major focus of the switchboard calls that we get. And of the Mayor's Action Center. So if we happen to not have a city service for that, we will do our best to connect you with any services we are aware of that can help you. If not, like I said, we may end up, if it's a social service, trying to work with you to connect you to 211. Another thing I wanted to go over, we do oftentimes have to transfer folks to AES as well as Citizens Energy Group. Citizens Energy Group actually is responsible for initial investigations of many of the sewers and flooding issues that the city has may have occur that residents are curious about or need to report. And so a lot of times that is going to be the first line of call. We will get you over there to make that initial report. There are some instances where they may send you back our way, and we'll work with DPW engineering to get you in touch with them to report that issue. But generally it is going to be Citizens Energy Group for a lot of that. AES, if a street light is out, does handle those calls. So we need to report to AES and their line if there is a street light that is out or blinking, or it has an issue if it's been knocked down, things of that nature. Moving on to the tenant assistance line. So this was, like I mentioned, our newest line that we took over. It launched in April of 2020. And essentially, we just wanted to help Indianapolis residents become aware of financial and legal resources that are available to them in times of crisis. We help connect folks looking for rental assistance to the Bonner Center or to our online Indy Rent portal. Rosie will talk about that in a minute here. But generally, we're a referral line who works and refers folks to Indiana Legal Services to aid tenants looking for legal advice and to learn more about tenant rights. If they're facing eviction or have any questions, we can make that referral to Indiana Legal Services, who will help them out. As of now, we've referred 1,000 or so folks, or over 1,000 folks, I should say, to ILS directly with that referral program. We obviously saw an uptick of need during when the eviction moratorium ended. And so we've been trying to make sure that we're available to help and answer any questions folks have on that end and get them into the right hands for potential legal aid if they need it. And so the last tool I just wanted to bring up really quick is the Indy Open Data Portal. This portal has been available for some years now, and it was created essentially to foster additional transparency for the city and for residents to see the data that we have. It's also been made available for scholars needing data. We get a lot of requests for data from universities, as well as residents or citizens who have, a civic-minded project that they want to work on. You can find all the MAC cases, master data set in an Excel to download in this at this web portal, as well as bid results, budget proposals, and mapping layers that city staff uses that you can download to use should you want to. Very briefly, again, I'm just going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm almost wrapped up here, but I want to make sure that I can share with you what that portal looks like. You'll give me 1 second. Sorry, having a little bit of difficulties. Okay. You should be able to see that open Indy data portal now. So this is really easy to navigate. Like I said, this is a resource to search for that data. And a lot of folks, if you want to see a large data set for all MAC cases, all you need to do is actually select data from this explore option. That will bring you into a kind of a main servicer page. If you select search and enter MAC, it's going to give you the ability to see what switchboard cases we've done, what service cases we've done, and as well as what information cases we've done. If you wanted to have that download that main data set, which is usually what people ask for, you'll select Mayor's Action Center services. That brings you to a list of all of those cases and their statuses. To see the full details and to download the data set, you just hit view full details. And then that allows you to hit download right here, opening up an Excel that will have all of those cases with pretty much all the case information you could want for review if you have any projects that you want to work on. The last thing I will show, and this is kind of a teaser, like I mentioned throughout the presentation, we will have some additional updates happening with Request Indy. Those are going to happen in the near future. And so I just really quickly wanted to show you a couple of these screens that we have available of what this new portal will kind of look like. Essentially, what's going to happen with this is we are going to be able to provide you with user logins. You can register as a user, which will give you just a better overall user experience. It will also let you track all of your requests in one place, so you don't have to write all the numbers down. They'll all be available to you. It'll increase transparency and you'll be able to see kind of more comments on where things are. And it's just going to overall be just a great upgrade and an easier way for residents to access city services. It'll be definitely a good update and a long awaited update to Request Indy. So that will be announced in the near future. I don't have permission to kind of launch further into that, but this is what the new screen will look like. You can continue as a guest, and from there, you'll be able to make requests. You'll be able to view the status of those cases. You can actually see the Indy maps and applications that are available. And then we have additional resources here that you may want to be able to use, finding your advocate, seeing the Twitter. You can go to the Mayor's Action Center website, the indy.gov website, and learn more about the DPW transportation projects and pages. If you were to make a request, we now also have a search function available, which makes it much more user-friendly to kind of see what you're looking for. And there are a lot of searchable terms in there, which makes it very nice. So I can't dig too deep in, but we will have this update and some announcements coming soon. I just wanted to give you all kind of a sneak peek at that. You are some of the first residents who've actually ever seen kind of what this new system will look like. And so, yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy that when it comes out, and we will definitely be willing and happy to take in feedback should you use it and have any concerns or questions at that time. But that wraps it up for me. I know I talked for a long time. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Rosie here to talk about the Indy Rent update and those things. So,
thank you.
I'm Rosie. Again, for anyone who came in late, I am the neighborhood advocate in Area 4 that serves the southwest portion of the county. Everything south of 10th Street and west of Holt Road, if you square it off. Tonight, I'm going to give you some information about the Indianapolis Rental Assistance Program, more commonly known as Indy Rents. It started as a response to the COVID pandemic in July of 2020. And since then, it has helped assist over 51,000 applicants remain in their wherever they were living, whether it was an apartment or a house. Indy Rents approved more than 135 million in rental assistance to those families. It was actually, it's been done in 3 phases as the money came in. First was Indy Cares Act, not Indy, CARES Act, the Coronavirus Relief Fund in 2020. There was 33.8 million spent from July to December 31st, with almost 16,000 households assisted. Then CARES Act 2, the city of Indianapolis allocated almost $29 million, and the state of Indiana reallocated 91.4 million. That particular portion helped 35,000 applicants. The American Rescue Plan, which currently is what the funds we're using, is 33.4 million. While these funds have been being used, we're also looking for a way to sustain this program. So we've seen a great need for it. Oh, I forgot. Let me share the screen. Okay. Who's eligible for this? Any household that is at or below 80% of the area median income. So for a family of
Hey, Rosie, if we can't see your screen, I want to make sure that you knew that.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know what I'm doing.
So once you hit share screen at the bottom, and then it should show up the screens to pick from, and you have to pick the screen. Did you do that? It's like the second step. It'll give you options.
Okay, my PowerPoint is not on here as something I can share.
It's up to you if you need a pause to get it, or if you think we don't need it, and I can even send it out later if need be.
Yeah, you can send it out later.
Okay.
But just to give you an example, a family of 3, anything under 59,000 would be eligible to apply. So it's pretty generous. If you had initially applied and it's been 3 months since you received any funding, you can reapply. So any family can receive up to 12 months of assistance through Indy Rents. Can I, wait a minute. The site itself is has tabs so that you can get it in English or Spanish. There are tabs for the applicant to apply. Then there's a separate tab that you can go to check on the status of it. The site tells you that it takes between 30 and 60 days for an application to be approved, but right now it's taking less than 30. We've also added a team of legal assistants at the small claims courts. It's the Tenant Advocate project for anyone who is currently facing eviction and can't wait that long. So there are people on site at the courts to try to help either push through the approval, but be able to talk to the landlords and try to negotiate something. We're working through the Bonner Center, so they are the ones who are processing the applications, along with 14 other of the county the neighborhood partners. So there's lots of help out there if anyone is trying to apply and does not understand the application. And that's it, since I don't have my PowerPoint.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for the Acela and Map Indy portion. Can you guys see that PowerPoint? Okay. So Acela is essentially a public-facing website database that's used by various city departments to have basic information on permits, enforcement cases, and oftentimes contractor information. This tool is helpful if you need to look up the status of an enforcement case that you submitted to the MAC. For example, high weeds and grass, if you want to find the status of that, you can search the property address and you can figure out where Business and Neighborhood Services is in their investigation. It's also helpful to know what permits have been applied for a property, what permits have been pulled for a range of addresses and things like that. Then down here, you'll see what the site kind of looks like. So some typical permit cases that we see in there would be an improvement location, a master permit, sign permit, structural, a driveway permit, and then plumbing and HVAC. So this is just kind of step by step how you search for permit records. Remember, permits are for when you're doing work on a building or if your neighbor's doing work on a building. So this is the directions for that. You'll click under the permits and contractors. You're going to click search cases. You'll type in the address here and then you'll click search. It will generate a list of each and every permit that has been applied for at that property. And you can click on the blue hyperlink case number and it will link you to oftentimes more information, including like plot plans or any kind of comments that have happened on the permit between Business and Neighborhood Services and the applicant. So this right here is showing you where you click down on record info. You can find attachments, related cases, and case details. You'll oftentimes be able to find the project description, the status of a permit, related permits, inspection details, plans, and stuff, things like that. So I will walk you through an example here. Can you all see the website that I'm on? Okay.
No.
We can see your PowerPoint slide, Caitlin.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Can you see the Acela site now? Okay.
Yes.
So we are going to research just a general property. You'll scroll through here, click permits and contractors. It will link you to this general case. You can either search by a case number, which is oftentimes a year and a set of letters that will reflect, like plumbing would be PLM. You can click the drop down arrow here and search through each and every one of these case types. But like I said, the most popular or the most applied for permit would be a structural, an improvement location permit, an electrical permit, things like that. So you can also search by date range. You can search from a certain street address to a different street address. But for this example, we're going to go ahead and do 930 West 10th Street. And in this, it doesn't matter which street number you type in. You can click search down here. And you'll see a list of each and every permit that this property has applied for. We are going to go ahead and click STR 2004786. Sometimes the website is a little bit slow, so you'll have to be patient with it. It holds a lot of information and larger PDF files. So sometimes it likes to take its sweet time. So in here, you'll click under record information. You'll be able to see case details, attachments, related cases. I have a feeling that attachments might take a while, but I want to just show you an example of what you would see in something like this. So here we have plan review comments, we have the application, we have plans, we have release drawings. I'm going to go ahead and click release drawings. It will link you out to a PDF. And sometimes it takes a while to download. Are you all able to see the PDF link? Let's see. So this is what was linked within Acela. All right. So moving on. So when you search for enforcement cases within Acela, you'll typically see that a case goes from an investigation to a violation and then enforcement. And then this is just showing you how to search through that way again. You'll go to the enforcement tab and you can search for cases that way. The same way as you search for cases for permits. You'll click the case number hyperlink and you'll be able to see related information and inspection details as well. And I'll go over an example of that as well. So you can also do a research report and a case summary report. It provides a list of historical activity for specific properties or parcels. Typically, we see zoning research firms using this type of information, but obviously it's available to everybody as well. Another, I guess, kind of confusing thing that we often see through city departments, a bit of confusion for what kind of records we have available. Environmental records, typically you can find them through the Marion County Health Department, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, and then sewer connections, that would be through Citizens Energy Group and oftentimes the Department of Public Works. Fire code violations would be the fire department, and then health code violations, obviously the health department. And then some common abbreviations. NOV is what you kind of expect to see. That would be a notice of violation. And there's also a workflow that the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services is required to go through. It will go through a couple of inspections, it will go through a couple of violations, and then if we are not able to see compliance, then that will ultimately go to legal, which would be the LGL. We can go ahead and do an example. All right. Can you all see the Acela Citizens Access portal trying to load? Okay. So I guess something to highlight would be if you see that something is closed out when you research your MAC complaint number. Oftentimes something was submitted such as like a high weeds and grass complaint. It may say closed in the MAC, but that does not necessarily mean it's closed in a CELA. So this is a helpful tool if you need to move over to this website and research the property that you submitted a complaint about that way. Okay. So starting at home, you can go ahead and click the enforcement tab up here, or you can also click the enforcement tab down here. We are going to go ahead and research that same address one more time. 930 West 10th Street. And you'll see in here an investigation for building, zoning, right of way, and building. We'll go ahead and click the most recent one.
It's amazing to me how much data is there, you know, which makes the website so slow. But I'm just always floored whenever we go into Excel, just thinking about the amount of information that's here.
Yes, it likes to take its time sometimes. I'm just gonna give this a little bit longer. So oftentimes the case details will list what was submitted to the MAC. So for example, construction taking place after hours, unlawful noises, and then it will go through and show you the parcel information and general and reason for investigation as well. You can see the inspection. And then you can see that there's no upcoming inspections, but one was completed and no violation was issued. You can see the date that that inspection occurred as well. The last tool that I'm going to chat with you all about would be Map Indy. I'm going to switch back to my slideshow. This is what Map Indy looks like. And it's very similar to the tools that Brittany and Joel showed you. Essentially, you can search for a specific property address. You are able to find the property card that way, the parcel number, the property owner, and this can also be utilized for creating a plot plan for a property. You can also zoom to search a property intersection for zoning information, classification, and the land use plan. Okay. So this is Map Indy. Are you guys able to see that, or am I still on the, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So we're gonna research my favorite address, 930 West 10th Street one more time. So here you're able to see what the parcel number is, the address, the owner, the township, the property card. And this is what a property card will look like. It has the property address, the name, the owner's name, and then the owner's address. There's a lot of helpful information on here for tax purposes. And then going back to Map Indy, there's another layer within that. You can click for zoning information. We'll go ahead and search the same address one more time. So here you'll see what parcels are underneath this address. You'll be able to see what it's zoned as. for primary and secondary. That information is kind of helpful when figuring out what a property can be used for. And then if you click the link for zoning, it will take you out to a larger searchable PDF, so you can figure out what kind of use is authorized there. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now.
All right. So thank you so much, Caitlin. And thank you to everyone. It was a lot of really great information. It is recorded. I want to remind you that we do want to get into some questions. So first, I just want to thank, Brittany, Joel, Caitlin, Erica, and Rosie for all your time and preparation for sharing all this information. But I do want to go in. I think there were a couple of questions in the chat that we didn't answer. I'm not sure if who asked them is still on the call, and I can scroll up to see if they're still here. Someone had asked, how do we know what to send to our M&A versus our CCC?
Sure, I'd be happy to step in and answer that, right? I don't know that there's anything that can't be shared with both. I mean, especially from a resident perspective, it depends on kind of how busy I would say the city councilor is, depending on the issue and kind of what their purview over that is, if they want to be able to get involved or if they can get involved. But it's great to share with both the M&A and the city county councilor. I would say if it's a basic, update on a MAC request, or you need something escalated with a department, it can usually very easily be handled through your M&A. But I know sometimes if it's been a little while, or if it's something a little more tedious, or if it's city dollars related, then it might be better to get in touch with your counselor, who's ultimately going to vote on the budget and approve where those dollars will be spent, right? So talking like big infrastructure projects and dollars with that, may be better to kind of loop them in, but also keep your M&A aware of kind of those conversations. So yeah, I would say share with both.
Perfect. And then actually one of the previous questions was answered at the time. And then it looks like Robin's question about zoning just got answered as well. So let's open it up to those of you who have hung in there with us. We are almost, we're at 7:20. We want to answer your questions though. So if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask it now. Brennan.
Hi, I wanted to ask if there a booklet of sorts or a type of packet or something that has, even though everything that is available online is very useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that Request Indy app is going to look like in the future. But I was going to say, is there a way that this kind of information could be carried around, like all of the websites, and even if there are QR codes, so people can see it in person and scan it, or anything like that that's already available to the public?
Thanks for the question, Brennan. I think for some one-off issues, we do have some QR codes or kind of information that can come along with that. And for one-off topics, I will say, I don't know that there is a comprehensive kind of all-inclusive booklet or pamphlet or fact sheet that kind of encompasses all of those, tools and all of the different options that we have. Though, it's not a bad idea. And I would say we're oftentimes, get innovations and requests from residents. So thank you for bringing it up. And if you have some more ideas on what, you think you'd like that to look like, your M&A and myself would be happy to collaborate if you have ideas on that, to see what would be possible with some of these departments.
Any other questions?
I have one. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm in the gym working out. So best way to do a Zoom call, is in my opinion. I have I think like two, but illegal dumping. I have started a process whenever I hold some of the neighborhood association meetings of getting everyone to get behind making a request or making a complaint about illegal dumping because it happens so often. Is there a better way other than Request Indy or the MAC? Is there a department that we should talk to? Maybe it's BNS or something, I don't know. But we're even at the point where we're starting to get pictures of the people who are dumping, including their license plates and their faces. Do we need to send that through the MAC, or is there another route that we should take?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll handle a portion of this, but maybe Caitlin, you have some advice as well, based on your experience working with BNS. But and also thank you for the dedication, Ron, being in the gym and hanging in there with us. So I think, you know,
dipping project, brother.
If there's common locations specifically where a lot of this dumping continues to happen, I do think it is good to, from a community standpoint, kind of come together, identify those locations. I know earlier in the chat, you had brought up that currently your M&A area is vacant, and I thank you for mentioning that. We're actively hiring currently and should be having someone fill in soon. I think Brittany stepped in and said for now you can work through her as well, which is great. If you can get those locations identified and get those to us, I think, you know, we'd be happy to try and set up a larger conversation to see what can be done specifically to help curb illegal dumping in those locations with BNS, if it's private property areas, if it's public property where it's happening, say near one of the highways or just in right of way, we can work with DPW to see what's available for that as well. I know a lot of highly trafficked areas that maybe used to be state highways, but have kind of been turned over to us, thinking of like Meridian or portions of Binford, that can be particularly hard with illegal dumping, and a lot of it occurs there as well. And it is in the right of way, which can be tricky. But I think if you can get us those locations, we'd be happy to collaborate on that. I think, Caitlin, do you have any insight as far as like if there's pictures and specific folks identified that, you know, how that can get into the best hands or the most appropriate hands?
Yes. Congratulations to you for taking pictures of people who are illegally dumping. I would say you can go ahead and email those to nuisance abatement, all one word, at indy.gov. They'll be able to receive those images and possibly review them and add them to the cases that they already have open at those properties, and see if it meets their legal threshold to pursue a legal case against specific offenders.
I like it. Thank you. And then my second question has to do with the neighborhood associations. I recently, we have a neighborhood association that was named one thing and then it was defunct for 10 or plus years. Just reactivated it. They changed the name. So I know they need to register. Do they also need to register with the Secretary of State?
I think that depends on the goal of the organization. If they want to become, you know, a registered 501c3 organization to handle money and intake those things, then I would suggest working to get that process kind of started and doing what you need to. Also, INRC, I think, is pretty well versed in helping folks get through that process, or at least pointing them in the right direction, but we'd be happy to collaborate as well. If you're not quite that far and not looking to have kind of that full scale, you know, intaking money, intaking grant dollars and distributing them, then a lot of folks obviously start off as just kind of registered with the city to stay on top of what's happening. Sharon, do you have anything you want to add?
There's some videos from that the library has on file that we tend to send out for folks who are thinking about going through that process. But really, Joel, what you just said, questioning why, and is that really what you need to do? Sometimes people do it because they think that's what they need to do, and then they realize later it was a lot of work that they didn't actually need to do at the time.
Where are you? You're in Georgia.
Perfect. Thank you, Ronald. Any other questions from anyone that's on the call?
I was asking about neighbor disputes and like, is there a mediator or is there plans to have some type of mediator to deal with neighborhood or specific neighbor disputes? Or if there's any specific pathway or just go through your MNA and hope for the best?
There is
Or
a
what
neighborhood
part-
resolution center. I don't have the information with me. I can get it to put in with this. It's through the public safety. Oh, Brittany has it.
Yep.
They will do mediation between neighbors as long as it does not get into any sort of, well, a lot of neighborhood families. So if it becomes something that could be considered domestic, they won't do it. But if you didn't know your neighbor before they were your neighbor, if they're not family, they would help with it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
That was perfect timing. Me and Brittany were just talking about that today because she had some other mediation requests that maybe were needed to be handled in her area. So perfect timing.
Any other questions? We have still a few minutes.
I did want to make a comment on one of the questions that was asked earlier about the recording on the phone. Just so y'all know, when new advocates come in, they usually get the advocate, they replace their phone, so those phone numbers stay the same. So if you haven't heard anything for a while, if you call that phone, it's either going to have a message who's taking over temporarily, or you'll know when the new person arrives.
I'd say too, if you are waiting and pending on getting answers for something and it feels really pressing, I don't think any of us would be too upset. I won't speak for Caitlin and Rosie, but I working with them, they're amazing. But I don't think any of us would be too upset if you searched another area using some of the tools that we showed you all tonight and found, another email and just kind of asked around until we got you the answers that you're looking for. That's what we're here for.
Brittany, did you want to say anything about Safe Summers? I saw you put that link in the chat as well.
Did I was sending the link for the Public Safety Foundation, ndpsf.org, and on their website they are advertising Safe Summer, but that is also through the Resolution Resource Center that Rosie and I were.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, everyone should know about Safe Summer, and if you don't, let's connect with your MNA so we can tell you about it.
Especially if you have young ones or work with young ones.
Going back to mediation, I think it's important that everyone's realistic. If you request those services, those are voluntary. So if you have a neighbor who just does not want to try to come to a resolution, there's nothing the city can do to force it until it would escalate that a judge order it, unfortunately.
Okay. But at least that's a place I can contact and a website I can go to.
It is, and they send out an official letter that doesn't necessarily look like it's voluntary.
Okay, good to know.
All right, well, it is 7:31. I appreciate everyone who was on this call, all of our facilitators of information, as well as all of you neighbors for hanging in there. We had a really great attendance. Almost 40 people were on the call this afternoon. And we really appreciate, all of you active neighbors in Indianapolis make our city a little bit better. So I'm so excited. We will have this posted on our website and on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you know anyone that you want to share it with, please let them know. And please enjoy your evening. Get something yummy to eat if you haven't already. And we'll look forward to hosting another info session in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Sharon, can you hang out for 1 minute? I have
Absolutely.
okay. I have a grant question. I
Thank
have
you,
for
Sharon. Thank you, Joel.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.